My name is Angela Allen. I'm 32 years old, and I work night shifts in the emergency room at County General Hospital. Most people see the woman who couldn't save her own daughter, the widow who fell apart, the sister who never measured up. But that Tuesday morning under the Morrison Bridge, none of that mattered. If this story hits home, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Every betrayal I share comes with a twist you won't see coming. Sevens. My hands were still shaking from river water when I realized the box I pulled out was moving. 3 years earlier, I couldn't save my daughter Emma from leukemia. I was there for every treatment, every false hope, every moment her body fought a battle it couldn't win. But that morning under the bridge, I had one more chance, one more life hanging in the balance. And this time, I wasn't going to fail. Tell me in the comments, would you have jumped in or would you have driven away? Let me back up. I need you to understand how I got there. Emma died when she was 4. Leukemia doesn't care that she loved strawberries and sang off key and called fireflies night stars. It took her anyway. My husband Marcus left 6 months after the funeral. Said the grief was too heavy. Said he needed to start over. Turns out starting over meant a new girlfriend in Portland and a Facebook page where Emma never existed. I kept working. Night shifts, mostly. The ER is chaos, and chaos doesn't let you think. Doesn't let you remember how your daughter's hand felt in yours. In the ER, there's always another patient, another emergency, another chance to save someone. My mother, Patricia, never understood why I became a nurse instead of something more respectable, like my sister Stephanie chose. To Mother, nursing meant bedpans and body fluids and being at everyone's beck and call. Servant work, she called it once, in a voice that made it clear what she thought of servants. Stephanie's in real estate, married to a lawyer named Derek, who wears expensive suits and talks about investment opportunities at family dinners. She has 2 perfect kids, Madison and Cooper, names that sound like they came from a catalog of acceptable life choices. They live in a house with a 3-car garage and a kitchen island bigger than my entire apartment, and she posts about it constantly on Instagram with captions like blessed and grateful that somehow always feel like they're aimed at me. Every family dinner became the same performance. We'd sit around Mother's dining table with the good china that only came out when Stephanie was there, and I'd watch the show unfold like a script we'd all memorized. Angela, are you seeing anyone? Mother would ask, voice dripping with concern that felt more like condemnation. The way she said it, you'd think being single at 32 was a terminal diagnosis. Not right now, Mother. I'm focused on work. Still doing those night shifts? Angela, that's no life for a woman your age. You need stability, structure, someone to take care of you. I take care of myself. Stephanie would smile that smile from across the table. The one that said she won and I lost, and we both knew it. And wasn't it kind of her not to rub it in too obviously? I'm sure Angela's just waiting for the right person. Mother, you can't rush these things. Which was Stephanie's speak for, she's damaged goods and we all know it. After Emma died, they got infinitely worse. Mother suggested, in that careful voice people use when they're saying something cruel but want credit for honesty, that I wasn't strong enough for motherhood. That maybe Emma's death was God's way of showing me my limitations. Stephanie nodded along, adding that maybe Emma's death was a sign I should focus on my career instead of trying to build a family. As if my daughter dying was career advice from the universe. When grandmother Helen passed away 2 years after Emma and left her estate to be divided, I found out exactly where I ranked in the family hierarchy. Stephanie got the house, a beautiful 3-bedroom craftsman in the nice part of town with original hardwood floors and a garden that grandmother had tended for 40 years. I got the leftovers. Some costume jewelry, a set of china I'd never use, and a sealed envelope about Emma's childhood cancer fund that I couldn't bring myself to open. Opening it meant acknowledging she was really gone, that the fund we'd built to save her had outlived its purpose, that all those donations and fundraisers and desperate prayers had gone nowhere. For 2 years, I worked myself numb. Attended Pastor Elena's grief support group on Thursdays. Started foster care certification classes because my apartment felt too empty and my arms felt too light. That Tuesday, I was driving home from a double shift. My scrub still smelled like antiseptic and bad coffee. I took the back road like always, the one that curves under the Morrison Bridge where the river runs low and cold. That's when I saw him. Beat-up Camry pulled crooked on the shoulder, hazard lights blinking like a heartbeat. A man in a gray hoodie, maybe late 20s, jumped out carrying a wooden crate. Not hurrying, but not casual either. Purposeful. Wrong. He walked straight to the guardrail and threw it over. I didn't think. My body slammed the brakes. My nursing brain kicked in. Someone was in trouble. I was out of my car, boots off, and down that embankment before my conscious mind caught up. The water hit like ice. Early October in Oregon feels like winter's warning shot. I couldn't feel my fingers by the time I reached the crate, but I could see it sinking. I grabbed it, hauled it toward the bank. My shoulders screamed. The current pulled. But I've spent 3 years lifting patients twice my size, and I wasn't letting go. When I finally dragged it onto the rocks, my hands shook as I pried the lid open. No nails, just pressure fit. It popped free. A newborn. Blue-lipped. Silent. But his tiny chest was moving. I called 911 with my phone on speaker, hands already working. Cleared his airway. Checked his pulse. Wrapped him in my flannel shirt. Skin to skin. The way I'd learned in pediatric rotations a lifetime ago. This is Angela Allen. I'm an RN at County General. I just pulled a newborn from the Morrison River. Male, approximately 24 hours old, cold-stressed, breathing shallow. I need immediate pediatric support. The dispatcher stayed on the line while I drove. The baby, Lucas, I decided right there because the name meant bringer of light, and God knows we needed some, started crying when we hit the main road. Weak, but crying. That meant his lungs worked. That meant we had time. But I had no idea what was coming next. I had no idea that saving this baby would destroy the man who tried to kill him and give me back everything I thought I'd lost. The pediatric unit at County General smelled like my nightmares. Antiseptic and hope and grief all mixed together. I'd spent 83 days here with Emma, watching her fade under fluorescent lights that never dimmed. But this time was different. This time, I was the one doing the saving. The attending physician, Dr. Rashid, met me at the door. We'd worked together before. She took one look at Lucas, bundled against my chest, and snapped into action. "Vitals?" she asked, already reaching for him. Pulse steady, respirations shallow, temperature dangerously low. I'd estimate 94 degrees. No obvious trauma. Umbilical cord recently severed with non-medical implement. She nodded. "Good work, Angela. We've got him now." They took him into the warming room. I stood in the hallway, soaked to the skin, shaking from cold and adrenaline. That's when Blair Chen found me. Blair was the county's lead child welfare investigator. 40-something, sharp eyes, always carrying a messenger bag that looked like it weighed more than she did. We'd crossed paths before when I'd reported suspected abuse cases from the ER. "Angela," she said, voice steady. "Tell me everything?" I did. The man, the hoodie, the Camry, the box. Blair wrote it all down in that precise handwriting investigators have, like every letter might end up as evidence. "The police are on their way. We'll need your statement. But right now, I need to know, can you stay with him tonight?" I blinked. "What?" "Emergency placement. He's stable, but he'll need monitoring." "You're a nurse. You found him. You clearly care. I can fast-track approval for 72 hours while we investigate." My mouth went dry. "I don't have supplies. I don't have sevens. We'll provide everything. Angela, He needs someone. Are you that someone? 3 years of empty arms answered for me. Yes. The next 6 hours were a blur of paperwork and police interviews. Detective Morrison showed up with tired eyes and a notebook that had seen better days. I described the Camry, the man, the box. He recorded everything. We'll check traffic cameras, he said. This is attempted murder. Possibly worse if we find out what led to it. They ran Lucas through every test. Blood work, x-rays, genetic screening. Doctor, Rashid reported. 6 pounds, 2 ounces. Umbilical cord shows amateur cutting, probably household scissors. No prenatal care we can detect. But he's a fighter. Strong vitals, considering what he's been through. While they worked, I called the one person who wouldn't judge me. Tessa Martinez, custody coordinator for the county and the closest thing I had to a best friend. We'd met at Pastor Elena's grief group. She'd lost her husband to cancer. We understood each other's silences. You did what? Tessa half shouted through the phone. I pulled a baby from the river. Now I'm taking him home. Pause. Then, I'm on my way. By the time Blair released us, Tessa had arrived with diapers, formula, bottles, and a car seat from her storage unit. My kids outgrew this stuff years ago, she said. It's yours now. Lucas slept the whole drive to my apartment. 1 bedroom in a complex that had seen better decades, but it was clean and the heat worked. I'd been taking foster certification classes for 3 months. Had passed the background check. Had references from Pastor Elena and Dr. Rashid. Blair had pulled my file and expedited approval. You're already 80% through the process, she'd said. We're just accelerating the timeline. My apartment felt different with Lucas in it. Less like a tomb, more like a beginning. I set up the borrowed bassinet in my bedroom, next to the picture of Emma on my nightstand. She smiled out at me, forever holding that ratty stuffed rabbit she loved. I'm not replacing you, I whispered to her photo. But I think you'd want me to do this. Lucas woke at 2 a.m., screaming. I heated formula, tested temperature, fed him while he gripped my finger. His eyes, barely focused, stared up at me like he was trying to figure out if I was safe. You are, I told him. You're safe now. Sleep was impossible. I kept checking his breathing, his color, his temperature. Nurse brain wouldn't shut off. By morning, I was exhausted, but he was thriving. Pink cheeks, strong grip, lusty cry when he wanted food. That's when my phone started ringing. First, Dr. Rashid. Blair Chen notified me of the placement. You need anything medical, you call me directly. Then Tessa. I'm bringing more supplies. Don't argue. Then Detective Morrison. We identified the vehicle. Belongs to Zane Parker, 28. Local scam artist. We're bringing him in for questioning. Then my mother. Angela Marie Allen. What on earth do I see on the news about you and a baby? My stomach dropped. Mother, I can explain. Stephanie sent me the link. You pulled a baby from a river. Have you lost your mind? He would have died. And now you think you're going to keep him? Angela, you couldn't even keep your marriage together. You couldn't keep Emma alive, us. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Lucas was crying. And I realized this was just the beginning. Before I could process, my door buzzed. Tessa with supplies. Then Pastor Elena with a casserole. Then 3 nurses from my ER rotation with diapers and baby clothes. We heard, Marcy said, pulling me into a hug. You're not doing this alone. But my family thought otherwise. That afternoon, Mother and Stephanie showed up unannounced. I was feeding Lucas when the knock came. sharp, impatient. I opened the door. Mother took one look at Lucas in my arms and her mouth thinned. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past me into my apartment. Stephanie followed, her expression somewhere between pity and judgment. "This is insane. Angela," Mother started. "You can't just take in a random baby. Sevens." "He's not random. I saved his life. You're using him to replace Emma." Stephanie's voice was soft. "Dangerous. Everyone can see it. That's not... Sevens. You're unstable. You work nights. You live alone. You're barely keeping yourself together." Mother's voice rose. "What makes you think you can handle a baby?" Something inside me cracked. I handle trauma patients every night. I handle codes and crashes and people dying in my hands. I handle it because it's my job. This, I look down at Lucas. This is my choice. "You're making a mistake," Mother said. "Then it's my mistake to make..." They left. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the frames on my wall. Lucas started crying, that newborn wail that sounds like the end of the world. I held him against my chest and cried too, my tears falling into his dark hair. For a moment, we were just two people who'd been thrown away by someone, clinging to each other in the wreckage. But the worst was yet to come, and I could feel it building like a storm on the horizon. 3 days later, Blair returned with news that made my stomach drop to my feet. We identified the birth mother. Raina Walsh, 21. Community college dropout. Lived alone in a studio apartment on the east side. She was found deceased in her apartment yesterday morning. Complications from childbirth. No medical assistance. She'd been dead for at least 36 hours when the landlord found her. My chest tightened until I couldn't breathe. She was alone? Looks that way. The coroner estimates she delivered Lucas herself, probably in that apartment bathroom. There was evidence everywhere. Blood, towels, a pair of scissors she'd used to cut the umbilical cord. No phone call to 911, no neighbors heard anything. Just a 21-year-old girl bleeding out on her bathroom floor while her baby... Blair's voice cracked. We found a 911 call at 3:04 a.m. from her phone. Asked what to do if a newborn won't cry. Call dropped before she could give her name or address. By the time we traced it, it was too late. I closed my eyes and saw it. A scared girl, alone in a bathroom, holding her baby and knowing she was dying. Calling for help but too weak to speak. Too scared to give her location. Dying while holding her son, then somehow finding the strength to wrap him in a towel and... What? Give him to someone she thought she could trust? There's more, Blair continued, pulling out her tablet. Zane Parker. We brought him in for questioning. He's not the biological father. DNA confirms it. Claims he barely knew Raina. But we found texts between them going back 4 months. He offered to help her with her problem for $2,000. There are Venmo payments. Angela. She paid him in installments. $600 in July, another $800 in August, the rest in September. He was paid to kill her baby? The words tasted like acid in my mouth. We think he convinced her to leave Lucas somewhere he claimed was safe. Maybe told her it was an anonymous drop-off point or something. But when she died and he panicked, he dumped the box himself. Probably figured if the baby died, there'd be no witnesses and no evidence tying him to Raina. Rage boiled in my chest, hot and sharp and unlike anything I'd felt since Marcus left. You arrested him? Not yet. We need more evidence to make charges stick. But we're building the case. We've got the texts, the payments, witness testimony from a woman at the transfer station who saw him with the box. We're close, Angela. Real close. The next week was a hurricane. DNA tests confirmed Lucas had no biological connection to Zane. The putative father registry search came back empty. No one claimed paternity. Raina's parents, Carol and Robert Walsh, were located. They lived 3 hours away, devastated by their daughter's death and shocked to discover they had a grandson. Blair arranged a supervised visit at her office. I dressed Lucas in the nicest onesie Tessa had donated, hands shaking as I buckled him into the car seat. Carol and Robert Walsh were in their 50s, dressed in their Sunday best like they were going to court. Carol's eyes were red-rimmed. Robert's jaw was tight. They looked at Lucas like he was a miracle and a wound at the same time. "May I hold him?" Carol whispered. I placed Lucas in her arms. She broke, tears streaming, rocking him gently. "He has Raina's nose," she sobbed. Robert stood by the window, fists clenched. "We didn't know. She said she was staying with friends." "Taking a break from school. We should have pushed harder." "She was scared," Blair said gently. "Sometimes fear makes people hide." Carol looked up at me. "You saved him." I was in the right place. "No." Her voice was firm. "You jumped in." "That's different." We talked for 2 hours. They weren't there to fight me. They wanted Lucas to be safe, loved, part of their lives. Blair explained the path forward. Emergency guardianship for me, with open visitation for them. Potential adoption later if all went well. "We're not trying to take him from you," Robert said. "We just want to know him." "I understand," I said. "I want that too." We scheduled weekly visits. They left with photos and promises. I left with hope that maybe, just maybe, this could work. But Zane Parker had other plans. The first letter arrived on a Thursday. Cheap envelope, no return address. Inside, block letters. "You raise my son, you pay rent. $4, $800 by Friday, or everyone knows the truth." Below that, a Cash App username. My hands shook. Tessa was there when I opened it. She grabbed her phone immediately. "We're calling Morrison. And Blair. And my brother's a family attorney. We're calling him too." Detective Morrison came to my apartment that evening. He photographed the letter, bagged the envelope, took my statement. "Don't pay," he said firmly. "You pay once. He owns you." "What if he goes public? What if he tells people Sevens? Tell people what? That you saved a baby? Angela, you're the hero here. He's the criminal. Let us build the case." But fear doesn't listen to logic. That night, I barely slept. Lucas seemed to sense my tension, fussing and crying until dawn. I called in sick to work. My supervisor's voice was tight. "Angela, this is the 3rd shift you've missed this month." "I know. I'm sorry." Sevens. "We need reliable staff. I'm giving you a warning. Official." The walls were closing in. Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Check Facebook." I opened the app. Zane Parker had created a post, public, tagged with every local news outlet he could find. "This woman stole my son from me. I'm fighting for my rights as a father. Please share." The comments rolled in. People I didn't know taking sides. Some supporting me. Some calling me a kidnapper. And then, horribly, my mother shared it with her own comment. "I warned her this would blow up in her face." Stephanie commented underneath, "Praying for wisdom for everyone involved," which was Stephanie's speak for "I told you so." I stared at my phone, Lucas crying in the background, and thought, maybe they're right. Maybe I can't do this. Then Tessa showed up at my door without knocking, Pastor Elena right behind her. "You're not quitting," Tessa said. "But everyone thinks." Sevens. "Everyone who matters knows the truth," Pastor Elena said. "The rest is noise." That night, we made a plan. Tessa's brother David, a family attorney, agreed to take my case. Detective Morrison escalated the investigation. Blair filed emergency motions with the court, and I finally opened the envelope from grandmother Helen's estate. Inside, a letter from Emma's oncology fund administrator. The charity fund I'd set up during her treatment had continued to grow through donations and investments. Current balance, $47,000, the letter explained. Grandmother Helen had been secretly contributing. She'd left instructions that the fund was always meant for me. For when Angela is ready to live again. I sat on my kitchen floor, Lucas asleep in his bassinet, and cried. Not from grief this time. From the realization that I'd been so busy surviving, I'd forgotten I had weapons to fight back with. And I was done being a victim. The emergency guardianship hearing was set for the following Thursday. 7 days to build a case strong enough to convince a judge I was fit to be Lucas's mother. 7 days for Zane Parker to systematically tear apart the fragile life I'd built. He started immediately, like he'd been planning this from the moment I pulled Lucas from that water. Day 1. Another letter arrived. Same cheap envelope, same blocky handwriting that looked like a child trying to disguise their writing. This time demanding $500. Consider it back rent for all those diapers. Babies are expensive, right? You don't want this getting ugly. Pay up by Friday. Day 2. More social media posts, each one more inflammatory than the last. Angela Allen is an unstable woman trying to replace her dead daughter with my son. She's using my baby to fill a hole in her broken life. Justice for fathers. Save Lucas. True crime story. Post got traction. People I'd never met weighing in, taking sides, calling me everything from a hero to a kidnapper. Some of my distant relatives, people I hadn't spoken to in years, started commenting, asking questions, spreading doubt like poison. Day 3. My landlord, Mr. Kowalski, a man I'd paid on time every single month for 3 years, knocked on my door with an expression that told me everything before he opened his mouth. Mrs. Allen, he started, not meeting my eyes. I've received multiple complaints about noise and disturbances. And there are concerns about safety, liability issues. I'm going to have to not renew your lease when it comes up next month. But I've never been late on rent. I've never caused any problems. 7s. It's not about money, Mrs. Allen. It's about the attention. The police coming by, the reporters calling, the social media posts. I've got other tenants to think about. They're uncomfortable. I can't have this kind of drama affecting the property value. He left before I could argue. I stood in my doorway, Lucas sleeping peacefully in his bassinet, completely unaware that the walls were closing in around us. Day 4. My supervisor, Karen, called me into her office at County General. She sat behind her desk with that careful expression administrators wear when they're about to ruin your life, but need to look sympathetic doing it. Angela, I received a phone call this morning from someone claiming to be Lucas's biological father. He says you're engaging in illegal activity, kidnapping, fraud, extortion. I don't know what to believe, but I can't have this kind of drama affecting patient care or the hospital's reputation. I'm putting you on administrative leave pending an internal investigation. Karen, it's not true. He's the one who tried to kill Lucas. Oh, 7s. I don't care who's telling the truth. Angela, I care that my phone is ringing with reporters asking about one of my nurses. I care that other staff are talking instead of working. You understand, I have to protect the hospital. I've been here for 8 years. I've never missed a shift except for emergencies. I've saved lives. 7s. And that's the only reason this is a leave and not a termination. But until this is resolved, you're suspended. No pay. I walked out of that hospital in a fog, my badge and keys surrendered at security. 3 years of perfect attendance. Hundreds of lives saved. Countless nights I'd stayed late to help, to cover shifts, to be the reliable one everyone could count on. None of it mattered. In 1 week, I'd lost my home and my job because a man who tried to murder a baby was better at social media than I was. Day 5, Lucas spiked a fever of 101, 2 degrees. His little body was hot to the touch, his crying weaker than usual. Panic seized my chest like a fist. I rushed him to the pediatric ER at County General, the same place I'd worked until yesterday, where I knew every hallway and every protocol, but now had to sign in as just another worried parent. The attending physician on duty was Dr. Sarah Kim, someone I'd trained with during my first year. She recognized me immediately, and I saw the conflict in her eyes, colleague versus patient, friend versus professional obligation. "Angela," she said gently, taking Lucas from my arms. "Let's get him checked out." She examined him quickly but thoroughly. Temperature, chest sounds, throat, ears. Her hands were steady and confident, the way mine used to be before my whole world turned to quicksand. "Likely just a viral infection, common cold. But we'll run a full panel to be safe. Blood work, urine culture, chest x-ray. With his history, we can't be too careful." His history meant being thrown in a river. Meant hypothermia and stress and trauma coded into his DNA now. While we waited for test results, I sat in those plastic chairs I'd walked past 1,000 times as a nurse. The waiting room smelled like fear and hand sanitizer. A toddler played with blocks in the corner. An elderly man held his wife's hand. A teenage girl scrolled her phone while her mother filled out paperwork. I used to be on the other side of this, the one with answers and authority. Now I was just another terrified parent, powerless and waiting. Then Zane walked in, and my blood turned to ice water. I recognized him instantly from the bridge, gray hoodie, jeans that hung too low, that same cocky stride that said he owned every room he entered. He spotted me across the waiting room and walked over like we were old friends meeting for coffee, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "Angela, right?" he said, hands shoved deep in his hoodie pockets. "Look, we can settle this easy. Give me what I'm owed, sign over custody, we both walk away clean. No lawyers, no drama, no one needs to get hurt." My hands clenched into fists in my lap. "You tried to kill him." He laughed, actually laughed, throwing his head back like I told the world's funniest joke. "Prove it, lady. Right now, all anyone sees is a desperate woman clinging to a baby that's not hers. Me? I'm just a concerned father trying to get his son back. Who do you think people believe? The unstable nurse who got fired, or the dad fighting for his rights?" Security was already moving toward us. I could see them in my peripheral vision, 2 guards crossing the waiting room with purpose. But Zane was faster. He pulled out his phone, hitting record before I could react. "Angela Allen just threatened me in front of witnesses at County General Hospital. You all saw it, right? Unstable. Dangerous. This is the woman trying to steal my son." He panned the camera across the waiting room. Some people looked away. Some pulled out their own phones. The teenage girl was already typing something on her screen. Security reached us then. "Sir, you need to leave." I'm leaving. Just documenting everything for the court. People deserve to know the truth." He walked toward the exit, still filming, still smirking. "See you Thursday, Angela. Hope you've got a good lawyer." The video was online within an hour, edited to make it look like I'd confronted him first, like I was the aggressor. The comments section filled with people calling me crazy, unstable, a kidnapper. Someone found my Facebook profile and shared it with the caption, "This is the woman holding that poor man's baby hostage." My private messages exploded with threats and hate and advice from strangers who knew nothing about the truth but had strong opinions anyway. Day 6. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Lucas's fever broke, but mine didn't. Tessa found me on my kitchen floor at 2 a.m. Lucas sleeping in my arms, I can't do this, I whispered. Everyone's right. I'm not strong enough. Tessa sat down next to me. You pulled a baby from a river. You fought off hypothermia. You've worked double shifts on 2 hours of sleep. You've survived things that would break most people. You are strong enough. But what if I lose him? Then you lose him fighting. But you don't surrender to a man who threw a baby in a river. That night, 3 things happened that changed everything. First, Detective Morrison called. We got him. Security footage from a mall 3 weeks ago shows Zane following you through a parking lot. Matches the timeline of your first letter. He's been stalking you. Second, Pastor Elena forwarded an email. Someone from Zane's past, a woman named Jennifer, had seen the news stories. She sent copies of texts where Zane had tried the same extortion scheme with her after she left him. She'd paid once. Then he'd demanded more. She was ready to testify. Third, Carol Walsh called. Robert and I talked. We want to support your adoption petition. Officially, Raina kept a journal. We found it in her apartment. She wrote about Zane, how he pressured her, how he built the box, how she was supposed to leave Lucas at a fire station, but she was too weak to get there after delivery. She never wanted him in that river. That was all Zane. Will you testify? I asked. Absolutely. Day 7. The hearing. I dressed Lucas in a light blue outfit Tessa had brought. My hands shook so badly I could barely button his tiny shirt. David, my attorney, met me at the courthouse. They're going to ask hard questions, he warned. About your stability, your job situation, your family. I know. Answer honestly. Don't get defensive. Show them you're doing this for Lucas, not for yourself. Inside, the courtroom was smaller than I expected. Judge Andrea Henley presiding, mid-50s, reading glasses perched on her nose. Blair Chen sat at one table. David and I at another. Zane and his public defender at a third. The proceedings started with formalities. Then Zane's attorney stood. Your Honor, my client seeks custody of his biological son. Ms. Allen, while well-intentioned, is not a suitable guardian. She's unemployed, emotionally unstable, and has no legal relationship to this child. Judge Henley looked at me. Ms. Allen, respond. I stood. Your Honor, I'm a registered nurse with 8 years of emergency medicine experience. I'm temporarily unemployed due to false accusations from Mr. Parker. I have stable housing, strong community support, and most importantly, I saved Lucas's life when Mr. Parker tried to end it. Objection. Zane's attorney said. No charges have been filed, bar Sevens. Yet, Detective Morrison said from the back of the courtroom. All heads turned. Judge Henley, may I approach? She waved him forward. He laid a folder on her bench. Security footage, witness statements, physical evidence, and text messages between Mr. Parker and the deceased mother. We're filing charges today. Attempted murder, child endangerment, extortion, and fraud. The courtroom went silent. Judge Henley opened the folder, read for what felt like an eternity, then looked at Zane. Mr. Parker, is there any truth to these allegations? His attorney whispered urgently in his ear. Zane's face had gone pale. I want to make a deal, he stammered. That's not how this works, Judge Henley said coldly. Ms. Allen, emergency guardianship is granted. We'll schedule a permanency hearing in 60 days. Mr. Parker, you're remanded to police custody. 2 officers moved forward. Zane jerked away. This isn't fair. That baby was supposed to... Sevens. He caught himself. Too late. Supposed to what, Mr. Parker? Judge Henley asked quietly. Silence. That's what I thought. Get him out of my courtroom. They led him away in handcuffs. I sat down hard, Lucas in my arms, shaking. Carol and Robert Walsh were crying in the gallery. Tessa was grinning. Pastor Elena had her hands clasped like she'd just witnessed a miracle. But it wasn't over yet. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Cameras, microphones, questions shouted over each other. David stepped forward. But Alan will not be taking questions at this time, but I will read a brief statement on her behalf. He unfolded a paper I'd written at 3A, Eam, Sevens. My name is Angela Allen. I am a nurse, a daughter, and a mother who lost her child to cancer 3 years ago. When I saw a man throw a box into the Morrison River, I didn't think about headlines or custody battles. I thought about saving a life. That's what nurses do. Lucas is alive because I jumped. He's thriving because I stayed. And he'll grow up knowing that when the world threw him away, people fought to bring him home. Thank you. The questions continued, but we pushed through to Tessa's car. Once inside, I finally let myself breathe. You did it, Tessa said. We did it, I corrected. But even then, I knew the hardest part was still coming. Because winning custody was one thing. Building a life was another. And my family hadn't said a word through any of it. The permanency hearing was scheduled for 60 days out. In that time, everything shifted. First, the truth about Zane came pouring out. Jennifer, the woman who'd contacted Pastor Elena, wasn't his only victim. 3 other women came forward with similar stories. Extortion, fraud, manipulation. His fake rental business collapsed under scrutiny. He owed over $60, $1 to victims across the state. Detective Morrison's case grew from a folder to a banker's box. Raina Walsh's journal, recovered from her apartment, detailed everything. How Zane had approached her at a coffee shop when she was 6 months pregnant, alone, and terrified. How he'd promised to handle everything for $2. How he'd built the wooden crate himself and told her it was for a safe surrender. But the journal also revealed something else. Raina had wanted to keep Lucas. She'd named him in her journal, Luke, after the biblical story of redemption. She'd drawn tiny hearts next to his name. She'd written, I hope whoever finds you knows you were loved. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough. When Carol Walsh read that entry aloud at a follow-up meeting with Blair, I wept. She fought for him, Carol said through tears. In her own way, she fought. So did you, Robert added, looking at me. You finished what Raina started. But the real twist came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was feeding Lucas in my apartment when David called. Angela, sit down. I'm already sitting. Good, because I just got off the phone with Detective Morrison. They found something in Raina's phone records. Text messages with an unidentified number. Someone was coaching her on how to hide her pregnancy, how to avoid medical care, how to disappear the problem. Who? They traced the number. Angela, it's registered to a Stephanie Allen. My blood turned to ice. My sister? Your sister. I couldn't breathe. Stephanie. Perfect Stephanie, with her perfect life and perfect judgment, had been helping a scared girl hide a pregnancy, and maybe helped lead her to Zane. Are you sure? Morrison's bringing her in for questioning this afternoon. I thought you should know first. I hung up, stared at Lucas, sleeping peacefully in my arms. My sister. My own sister. 2 hours later, my mother called. Angela. Her voice was brittle. I need to talk to you. I'm busy. Sevens. Stephanie has been arrested. I close my eyes. I know. You know. How could you? Did you do this? Mother, I didn't do anything. Stephanie did this to herself. She was trying to help that poor girl. She didn't know about the man. Sevens. She helped a girl avoid prenatal care. She connected her with someone who nearly killed a baby. How is that helping? Silence. Then, quietly, can we come over? Please? They arrived an hour later. Mother and Stephanie. Stephanie looked smaller somehow, her perfect veneer cracked. Mother looked old. I let them in but didn't offer seats. Say what you came to say. Stephanie spoke first, voice shaking. Raina came into my office 6 months ago looking for rental assistance. She was pregnant, alone, and desperate. I knew someone who could help, or so I thought. I gave her Zane's number. He said he helped girls in trouble. You didn't vet him. No. I just wanted to help. You wanted to look good. There's a difference. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I didn't know he would. I never thought. Sevens. You didn't think at all. And a girl died. Her baby almost did too. Mother stepped forward. Angela, please. We're family. Sevens. Family. I laughed, cold. Family tells the truth. Family shows up. Where were you when I lost Emma? When Marcus left? When I was drowning? You criticized. You judged. You made me feel small. That's not family. That's cruelty with a smile. Mother's face crumpled. I thought I was protecting you. I thought if I pushed you, you'd become stronger. I became stronger despite you, not because of you. Stephanie sank onto my couch, crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I looked at them both, broken, ashamed, finally seeing me as something other than a disappointment. Do you know what Lucas taught me? I said quietly. That being strong doesn't mean being perfect. It means showing up even when you're terrified. It means jumping even when you might fail. You two spent so much time trying to look perfect. You forgot to be real. What do we do now? Mother whispered. You face the consequences. Stephanie talks to Morrison, tells the truth. Whatever happens, happens. And then, if you want, you start over. But on my terms. No more criticism. No more judgment. You're in my life as support, or you're not in it at all. Stephanie looked up. You'd really cut us out. I jumped into a river for a baby I didn't know. You think I won't do what's necessary to protect him from people I do know? Mother nodded slowly. We understand. They left. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I'd won something that mattered. The sting operation happened 3 weeks later. Zane, out on bail, pending trial, got desperate. He sent a final demand. $10, $1,000, or he'd claim Lucas had medical issues I was hiding. Detective Morrison proposed a plan. Meet him, wear a wire, get him talking. We'll have units standing by. Is it safe? We'll have eyes on you the whole time. He's a coward. Cowards fold under pressure. David and Tessa both objected. But I agreed. Let's finish this. The meet was set for a parking lot near the old warehouse where I used to load pallets before Lucas. Big space, good lighting, plenty of cameras. Tessa insisted on coming, hidden in a van with Lucas and Pastor Elena. If something goes wrong, we're there. Morrison wired me himself. Just get him talking. He'll incriminate himself. They always do. When Zane arrived in his beat-up Camry, I was ready. He stepped out, swagger in every movement. Smart choice, he said. Let's make this quick. Why did you do it? I asked. Why try to kill him? Kill? Nah, I was just helping Raina. She couldn't handle a baby. So you built a box and threw it in a river. She told me to leave it somewhere safe. I panicked when she died. Didn't know what else to do. You could have called 911. And say what? I've got a dead girl's baby? Come on. I'm not stupid? No, just criminal. He smirked. Where's my money? You're not getting any money. His face darkened. Then I'm going public. Everyone will know you're a fraud. Sevens. They already know I'm a hero. That's when Morrison stepped out from behind a parked truck, officers flanking him. Zane Parker, you're under arrest. Zane ran, made it maybe 10 feet before he tripped over his own feet and went down hard. Face first into asphalt. Officers swarmed. Cuffed him while he screamed about his rights. Morrison walked over to me. Good work. We got everything. I pulled off the wire with shaking hands. Is it really over? For him? Yeah. For you? It's just beginning. 2 months later, the adoption was finalized in a courtroom that smelled like old wood and nervous sweat. Judge Henley, mid-60s with reading glasses that hung on a chain around her neck, smiled warmly as she signed the papers with careful, deliberate strokes. Each signature felt like a door closing on the past and opening on the future. Angela Allen, she said, looking up at me with eyes that had seen 1,000 families formed and broken in this room. Lucas is officially your son. The court recognizes your guardianship as permanent and binding. Congratulations. You've earned this. Carol and Robert Walsh stood in the gallery behind me, crying and clapping, their faces bright with joy and grief mixed together. Joy for Lucas, grief for Raina, who should have been here to see this. Tessa and Pastor Elena cheered from the front row, their voices loud enough to make the bailiff smile. David, my attorney, who'd become so much more, grinned like he'd just won the Super Bowl. And Lucas, 16 weeks old now and perfect, slept through the whole thing in his carrier, blissfully unaware that his entire future had just been secured. Afterward, we gathered at Rosie's Diner across from the courthouse, a place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like it had been brewing since 1987, but where the pancakes were legendary and the waitress knew everyone's name. Carol insisted on paying before anyone could argue. You've given us a grandson, she said, pulling out her wallet with shaking hands. You've given us a piece of Raina back. This is the absolute least we can do. Stephanie showed up about 20 minutes late, uninvited but hopeful, lingering in the doorway like she wasn't sure she had permission to enter. She'd pled guilty to negligent referral and received 200 hours of community service plus a suspended real estate license. Her marriage to Derek was strained to the breaking point. I'd heard through Mother that they were in counseling, that Derek was furious she'd hidden her involvement, that Madison and Cooper kept asking why Mommy was sad all the time. But she came anyway, carrying a small wrapped gift that looked like she'd agonized over it. I know I don't deserve to be here, she said quietly, standing at the edge of our table like a supplicant at a shrine. But I wanted to say congratulations. You were right about everything. About me. About Mother. About what matters. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. I looked at her for a long moment, really looked at her. Saw the dark circles under her eyes that no amount of concealer could hide. The way her expensive clothes hung a little looser, like she'd lost weight from stress. The absence of her wedding ring, which meant things with Derek were worse than I'd heard. The genuine remorse in her face that looked painful, like she was learning to feel things she'd spent a lifetime avoiding. Then I gestured to an empty chair at the end of the booth. Sit. But you're buying your own coffee. I'm not made of money. She laughed, watery and grateful and maybe a little bit broken. Fair enough. More than fair. Mother came too, arriving with a casserole dish wrapped in aluminum foil and an expression I'd never seen before. Humility. Real, uncomfortable humility that sat on her face like an outfit she wasn't used to wearing. She held Lucas for the first time that day, tears streaming down her carefully made-up face. mascara running in dark rivers. "I'm proud of you," she whispered into his fuzzy head. "I should have said that years ago. About Emma. About your nursing. About every single brave thing you've done while I was too busy judging to notice. I'm proud of you, Angela. So proud." "Say it more now," I told her, keeping my voice gentle but firm. "And mean it every time." "I will. I promise I will." We ate pancakes and celebrated life. Lucas spit up on my shoulder. Carol told stories about Raina as a little girl. Robert showed pictures. Tessa's kids ran circles around the table. Pastor Elena blessed our food and our family. And for the first time since Emma died, I felt whole. Not because the hole was filled, but because I'd learned to build around it. Zane Parker was sentenced 6 months after Lucas's adoption. 8 years for attempted murder, child endangerment, extortion, and fraud. The judge called him a danger to society and a coward of the worst kind. He'll be eligible for parole in 5 years. I'll be there to oppose it. His victims received restitution orders, though most will never see a dime. His business collapsed. His reputation destroyed. Even his family cut ties. Justice, turns out, sometimes has a face. But the real victory wasn't his downfall. It was Lucas's first birthday. We held it at Pastor Elena's church. Lucas, now walking and babbling and destroying everything he touched, wore a little bow tie that Tessa had found. The theme was River and Stars, because I wanted him to know where he came from and where he was going. Carol and Robert brought a photo album. Pictures of Raina as a baby, as a teenager, laughing and young and full of life. "So he knows his mother?" Carol said. "So he knows he came from love." Mother and Stephanie came. They'd been attending family therapy for months. Progress was slow. Trust was fragile. But they showed up. That mattered. Stephanie pulled me aside. "I lost 3 clients this year. Derek and I are in counseling. I'm not who I was." "Is that bad?" I asked. "No," she said slowly. "I think it's better." I think I was hiding too. Mother's transformation was quieter but deeper. She started volunteering at a crisis pregnancy center, stopped posting performative things on Facebook, started actually listening when I talked. "I spent so long trying to control you," she admitted one afternoon while watching Lucas play. "I thought that was love. I was wrong." "You were," I agreed. "But you're here now. That's what matters." My job situation resolved too. County General offered me a position as charge nurse on the pediatric floor. Day shifts. Better pay. "We never should have let you go," my old supervisor said. "You're one of the best we have." I accepted on the condition they implement better support for staff facing personal crises. They agreed. Tessa and I became family in every way that mattered. Her kids called Lucas their cousin. We rotated dinners, shared babysitting, celebrated holidays together. Her brother David became a fixture too, and maybe something more, though we were taking it slow. "You know I like you, right?" he said one evening after Lucas was asleep. "I know. And you know I'm not Marcus. I'm not going anywhere when things get hard." "I know that too." "Good. Just making sure." We were building something. Not rushed. Not desperate. Just steady and real. Carol and Robert visited every Sunday. They'd arrive with groceries, stories, and love. Lucas learned to say grandma before mama, which Carol found hilarious and I found perfect. "Thank you for sharing him," I told them once. "Thank you for saving him," Robert replied. The hardest moment came on Emma's birthday. She would have been 7. I took Lucas to the cemetery where she was buried, placed flowers on her small headstone. "This is your sister," I told Lucas, who was too young to understand but old enough to listen. Her name was Emma. She loved strawberries and fireflies. She would have loved you, I cried. Lucas patted my face with his chubby hands. And I realized grief and joy could coexist. They had to. Because that's what life was, the full spectrum. Pastor Elena invited me to speak at her grief support group 6 months later. Tell them how you did it, she said. So I did. Saving Lucas didn't fix my grief. I told the room of hollow-eyed people. It didn't bring Emma back, but it taught me that I could survive the pain, that I could still be a mother even after I lost a daughter. That love doesn't run out, even when it feels like it does. A woman in the back, maybe 30, raised her hand. But how did you know you were strong enough? I thought about the river, the cold, the current, the choice to jump. I didn't, I said. I just jumped anyway. A year after Lucas's first birthday, my life looked nothing like I'd imagined. I had a son, a family, both given and chosen, a job I loved, a community that held me up, scars that taught me I was stronger than I knew. Lucas started daycare 3 days a week, cried the first drop-off, laughed by the second. I stood in the parking lot watching him through the window, playing with blocks, and thought, I did this. We did this. Stephanie texted that afternoon. Coffee this week? I replied. Thursday. My place. Bring donuts. She sent a heart emoji. Mother called that evening. I'm taking a cooking class. Thought maybe I could make dinner for you and Lucas next week. I'd like that, I said. And I meant it. David stayed over more nights than not. Lucas called him Davy and clung to his legs when he tried to leave for work. One morning, David asked me, what do you think about marriage? Someday, I mean, when things settle. I looked at him, at Lucas, at the life we were building. Someday sounds right, I said. But the best moment came on a random Tuesday. I was folding laundry. Lucas was playing on the floor. The TV was on low. Nothing special. Nothing dramatic. And I realized I was happy. Not the loud, overwhelming happiness of new beginnings, but the quiet, steady happiness of being exactly where I was supposed to be. I picked up Lucas, spun him around. He shrieked with laughter. You saved me too, you know, I whispered into his hair. He grabbed my nose, giggled, didn't understand. But someday he would. Someday I'd tell him the whole story. About the river, the box, the man who threw him away, the woman who jumped in, the family who fought for him, the love that brought him home. But for now, this was enough. We were enough. I set Lucas down. He toddled toward his toy box. I folded another shirt. Life continued. Messy. Beautiful. Real. And I walked straight through it. No turns. No regrets. Just forward. Always forward. If you'd asked me 5 years ago where I'd be today, I never would have guessed here. Lucas is 6 now. He starts first grade next month. He loves dinosaurs and soccer and asks a million questions I can't always answer. Mama, why is the sky blue? Mama, where do stars go during the day? Mama, why do you have that picture of the girl? That last question came one evening while we were reading before bed. He pointed to Emma's photo on my nightstand. I took a breath. That's your sister, Emma. She died before you were born, but she's still part of our family. Can I meet her? Not yet, baby, but someday. And until then, we remember her. Okay. Then he went back to his book like it was the simplest thing in the world. Maybe it was. David and I got married last spring. Small ceremony at Pastor Elena's church. Lucas was the ring bearer and dropped them twice. Carol cried through the whole thing. Mother actually smiled without it looking forced. Stephanie gave a toast that made everyone laugh and cry. To my sister, she said, raising her glass. Who taught me that strength isn't about being perfect? It's about jumping anyway. We honeymooned locally. Couldn't bear to leave Lucas for long, but we walked the trail near the Morrison Bridge one afternoon. Stood where I'd pulled him from the water. I think about that day a lot, I said. Me too, David replied. Best thing that ever happened to me was you jumping in that river. Second best, I corrected. First was you not running when things got complicated. He kissed me. Never running. That's the deal. We stood there, hand in hand, watching the water flow past. The same water that almost took Lucas. The same water that brought him home. And I thought, life is just like this. A current that pulls and pushes. You can fight it. You can fear it. Or you can jump in and trust yourself to swim. I chose to swim. What would you have done if you saw that box in the river? Would you have jumped? If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to be brave. That family's built, not just born. That second chances are real. Leave a comment. Tell me your story. Let me know you're out there, fighting your own rivers. And don't forget to subscribe, because every story matters. Every jump counts. Every life is worth saving, including your own. Now go. Live. Jump when you need to. And walk straight through whatever comes next. You're stronger than you know.